Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick and Jeff Lasseter. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle's CriticsPod. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Please go back to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. That does help us get noticed. We have a YouTube channel. You can listen to us there, Critics Pod. Click on the little reminder button to be notified when a new episode drops. Patreon.com/CriticsPod is the best way to help support the podcast. Several bonus episodes, including a commentary track of Friday the 13th with Jeff and Sean, and several music reviews from me and Sean. And then TeePublic, if you want some of our podcast merch, head over to tpublic.com and search CriticsPod, or go to ihatecritics.net and click on the TeePublic link up in the right-hand corner. Sean, where can people read your reviews?
At themovies.blogspot.com.
And Jeff, where can people get your art?
JeffLasseter.com. I'm pretty much Jeff Lasseter everywhere. Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter. I mean, come on, everywhere.
It's social.
Yeah. And also, if you go to my website, there's links to my Etsy shop. Please go buy stuff from me. Please. Please.
And we have links in our show notes as well. All right, let's jump in right into this week's episode with Insidious Red Door.
Insidious the Red Door, starring Patrick Wilson and directed by Patrick Wilson. This is picking up on the Insidious story with the returning to the Lambert family after the last two films that focused on the character of Elise, played by Lynn Shay. We'll pick up the story about 10 years down the road, where Patrick Wilson's character and Ty Simpkins' character are together but estranged, the father and son, following having been hypnotized to forget about the Further, which is the place where each of them could travel, and of course it attracted demons in the past, where even Patrick Wilson's character had been actually possessed by a demon and nearly killed his family in Insidious Chapter 2. This picks up 10 years down the road. They're both starting to kind of remember what happened to them, and various different triggers, and as that memory returns, the demons also begin to return, and they both have to essentially go back into the Further and kind of fight to save each other. Patrick Wilson is a first-time director, so I want to be as kind to him as possible, but it's very obvious that he doesn't quite have a knack for directing yet. His choices are a little bit weird. His choices for scenes just to linger too long. He uses a lot of the same tropes that every other horror movie director uses, which is pretty standard for somebody, again, who hasn't been behind the camera before. He's an experienced guy in front of the camera. He's been on sets for years. I'm sure he's studied this, but again, it's not something that everybody can do right away. And I'm sure maybe down the road he might be pretty good at this, but right now he doesn't quite have a mastery for it, especially when you're comparing him to both Lee Wanell and James Wan, who did the originals of this film, and even Robitel, who did the fourth Insidious film. He's quite a good, accomplished horror director. He just doesn't quite have that knack. So the movie was very basic to me. It was it was very much every other horror film. It didn't even, it felt like an Insidious movie only because it was related to characters familiar from Insidious. But the key for me when it comes to the Insidious franchise, and I watched and wrote about every entry in the Insidious franchise, with 2 or 3 new reviews actually this week. The key to the franchise is Lynn Shay, or if not Lynn Shay, it's Lee Wanell. Those two are kind of hand in hand the best parts of the Insidious franchise. Patrick Wilson is a fine actor, but I find him to be very wooden. He's good as being a tool of a director. He's great at that, actually. He was great at being a tool for Lee Wanell and a tool for James Wan. Here, having to be both the guy in front of the camera and behind it, I just don't think it works nearly as well, and thus this is pretty much the least in the Insidious franchise for me.
Is there anything he did good that shows potential?
Sure. I mean, it's a professional effort. He's certainly not embarrassing himself. It's just very basic. It's definitely like a first time director's effort, but I mean, there's a great deal of potential there. He directs very soundly.
Jeff, do you see it?
I did. So last Thursday Wednesday and Thursday I watched all of the movies in quick succession at my desk at work. And I was kind of reminded of how each one had different levels of diminishing returns for me. I always liked how the second one kind of tied into the first one so well, where they kind of retconned a few things. And I was kind of, after a couple movies of Elise going, into the further and beyond, and her story kind of, I guess it kind of came to an end. It could have gone on with something differently, but, working with her nieces and her brother, and I liked that. I was kind of hoping she would have been in the new one a little more, even though she's a ghost. Everything Sean said, it was competent.
Yeah.
It was not, it just wasn't very exciting. And I feel like it was a movie about fathers and sons, it was Josh and his relationship to his father, which I really felt it could have gone a lot further. It could have, there could have been more of a story of that as opposed to Dalton and his, admittedly, the best character in the movie, fun upstairs neighbor, home roommate. She was great. Oh my God, she was so good. But to carry the father and son theme to its logical conclusion, there should have been, there should have been a scene between Josh and his father, and not just jump scares concerning his father. I think that's really what bugged me about it, was how do you make Josh relate to Dalton, who is kind of estranged from him, and he thinks he's, oh my God, he's my dad, he's such a dork, and typical 19-year-old stuff. I wanted there to be a little more to kind of beef it up. Whether that would be, thinking about it now, I really would have liked to have seen Elise come to Josh in the further and say, your father had the same relationship with his father, and it goes generational, and there is this kind of, not necessarily a mental illness, but a spirit magnetism that runs in your family, and that's why you have such a hard time with Dalton. And kind of, I guess, psychoanalyze him in the further. I think that would have really made it a lot stronger. It was fine. It was, but I wasn't, I will say this, they were able to tie in some of the stuff from Insidious 2 and kind of seamlessly integrate the grown-up cast, into it, like they did with 2 to 1. But I didn't really feel any connection. It could have used a lot more Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne was the heart of the first one, and she was the kind of the modulating force in 2, and I felt like that she was really missed in this one.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
So,
what else was missed is Barbara Hershey too. Her character gets killed in the. She's dead when the movie starts, and she was pivotal to Insidious Chapter 2 as well, which I think is the best of the Insidious franchise. Chapter 2, the way it builds on the foundation. You mentioned the father and son stuff, though. That really didn't register, or it didn't resonate with me because this franchise is built on that family history, and for that to just arrive here suddenly in this movie, it felt like a cheat to me. Like we've never mentioned the dad before in any previous entries, and now it's here, and that didn't feel right to me. Especially, like I said, it's a franchise that's built on it, and I know it's certainly a question that I'm sure may have been had, but it wasn't brought up before. And when you're going to build your franchise on history like that, it feels like just kind of a random cheat to try and make that important now.
Yeah. Well, and if you're going to have this story about his dad, why would you kill the mom off screen before, and unless she didn't want to come back?
Yeah.
But, recast her. I mean, I love Barbara Hershey, but come on. That to me would be really, really important. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It was an important secret that she kept, which also doesn't feel right. It feels like that's something she would have addressed in chapter 2, considering how concerned she was for her son.
Yeah. It's like they retconned 2 into 1 so well, with, Josh being, with all the little things that happened in 1, like the alarm and stuff, is caused by Josh. Why wouldn't that have been there?
Yeah. It all feels very, when you look at it from this perspective and you start pulling those threads, it feels kind of mercenary. Like, well, we need to make another Insidious because there's still money to be made here. And that just,
yeah,
I know that's kind of a silly notion considering the way Hollywood works, but still, I do feel like actually all 4 of the previous Insidious movies were actually really good. So, I wanted another good one. I wanted another one where they took a good deal of care to make it. Like I said, I think chapter 2 is great. I thought chapter 3 was great. I liked The Last Key. Then I liked Insidious 1, and then this one is my least favorite. So like Insidious 1 actually is like my 4th overall. I think low-key, like chapter 3 gets desperately underrated.
Yeah.
I did not like chapter 3. I guess when I look at if you look at like the last, I don't know, I think The Conjuring's a step above these, and I think these are kind of lesser than. They're okay, but I don't think I don't know. They are making money though. I mean, how did this one do?
Number 1 at the box office and beat Indiana Jones in week 2, which is not great for Indiana Jones.
You know what? Indiana Jones is already all over the internet. So
yeah, Indiana Jones is doing well internationally too.
But I mean, it's like one of my friends has a file. Is like, do you want to watch Indiana Jones? I'm like, I've already seen it twice. Oh, I've got a copy if you want. And I'm like, already, like.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, ruin the theatrical. Ready to go. Way to go. Cool. Let's just destroy the theaters. Great.
Yeah.
Well, in general, isn't that kind of like with Indiana Jones not doing well and The Flash not doing well? Little Mermaid, how did that do? Were they expecting more from that? I don't know. It just seems like all I hear is bad news in theaters lately.
Insidious is very good news. They made a good deal of money with that one. So, and
if anything is going to save theaters, it's going to be horror films. I mean, it's historically when there's a slump, you bring out a couple good horror movies and,
right.
It kind of gooses it a little bit.
But also Mission Impossible is going to do really well this weekend as well.
Yeah.
And actually the biggest thing right now is the Barbie Oppenheimer matchup. Everybody
Barbenheimer?
Yeah, everybody seemingly is planning now to do a double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer. If you're watching TikTok, it's all over the place, which is kind of great. And it does make for a fascinating double feature for sure.
Are you going to watch them back to back?
Absolutely. Actually, no. I'm probably going to have to. I got a critic screening of Barbie coming up, and I may have to do that and then see Oppenheimer later. So,
lamer.
Well, I'm seeing Barbie on that Thursday, and I'm going to try to see Oppenheimer the earliest possible showing on Saturday or Sunday because I have other stuff to do. Um,
Did you lose your thought?
no, I was done. I was
Oh.
done. I was just
I
like,
thought
I
you
was.
said, I thought you guys.
I gotta say that. I mean, I know I'm glad you like the Conjuring movies, but I think Insidious is way better. I do.
Oh,
For
I
me,
understand that, but I think the majority
Still-
would disagree.
but yeah, most of the time that happens to me. But Insidious for me is well above the Conjuring movies, just because I think they're more rooted in something I can follow than upside down crosses
Well,
and the awful Warrens, of course.
Well, yeah.
well, I was, yeah. So I like the Conjuring universe overall. I think, if you treat the Warrens as the fictional characters that they are, um, they get much better. I'm not a fan necessarily of possession movies
Right.
because of the fact that I'm an atheist and it's not scary to me at all. That first Conjuring, up until the time it was her being possessed by a demon and the whole religious overtones, was so fucking scary to me. Like the hand claps and, it, but then with the Insidious movies, that little boy, I'm just getting chills now thinking of her walking past him, facing the wall. She doesn't see him, and then she's outside and she sees him dancing, and it's like, that's fucking scary. Even to
Right.
me, who's seen every fucking horror movie that ever lived.
Right. Well,
But
I love Tiptoe Through the Tulips. I think that is
yes,
a tremendous horror movie song. I love that that's come back a couple times. But I love the makeup design too on the demons. I think those are fantastic. Like that red faced demon is awesome.
Darth Maul.
That's a great visual. The Black Bride is a great character with a bizarre, terrifying backstory. Like I just think that they've come up with so many clever things. The villain in chapter 3, I think, is incredibly well designed. The horrors of aging, that awful breathing mask on it, and then that great scene of the villain, this demon character cradling the teenage girl. That was fantastic. Fantastic. I love that.
and I guess for me, or go ahead, Jeff.
No, I think they both benefit from people who are steeped in horror movies and the imagery that they create, because there are things in both franchises that image wise are much more frightening than story wise.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. And
sorry, Bob. I didn't.
No, I think with like The Conjuring, it almost felt like a bigger movie, and it seemed like Insidious was like kind of came out of nowhere, like, oh, this is way better than it deserves to be, kind of a thing, and it kind of picked up a different, or probably the same audience, but I mean the fact that they have both of them turned into franchises is pretty, I guess, not remarkable because everything's a franchise that's successful nowadays.
I mean, Juan and Juan L, they're the best of what they do. I mean, we're talking about Saw, The Conjuring, and Insidious. Those guys did all that shit. That's amazing.
Yeah. Since I took last week off, my wife's been out of town, and my daughter, was just me and her, and my son was with my wife, and she wanted to get into horror movies, so we started with Hereditary, which was
Wow.
amazing. I mean, it's so much better than I even remember it being, and I loved it.
So awesome.
Because I don't know, I've only seen it, I saw it right away when it came out after the theater, and then I haven't watched it, I haven't gone back, and it's just so much better than I even thought. And then we watched The Shining, and then of course our classic, which she didn't make it through the classic. We'll get to that later. Those are, when you're doing introductions, maybe you don't start with the Tourist Trap.
Maybe.
But, all right, let's move on to Joyride.
Joyride is a terrific comedy from director Adele Lim, written and directed by her, with the 4 terrific actresses, and easily the biggest laugh I've had all year at any movie. There is a tattoo in this movie, Bob, that is easily the single funniest tattoo in movie history. It is like the jump scare of laughs. The reveal of it is so sudden and so unexpected, and you've been told what's coming. You've been told it's a bad tattoo, but you are not ready for this. You are not ready for just how amazing it is and how we get to it. I've never laughed that hard in a movie ever. I mean, I think this movie is good. I don't think it's a great comedy, but that moment is absolutely top tier laugh. They're just really terrific characters. This is a very funny movie. It's a road trip comedy. 4 friends going to China, or 3 of them going to China. One of them's already there. They're going there because one of them has a business meeting. She doesn't speak Chinese, so she brings along her friend who does. And the friend is very acerbic and not the most trustworthy person, certainly not the person you want in this situation, but she's loyal and friendly, and she's going to help as best she can. They've got another friend who's waiting for them there who has the suspect tattoo, Stephanie Sue from Everything Everywhere All at Once. And they're bringing along another one, this woman named Deadeye, this person named Deadeye, who's the cousin of the interpreter friend. She's hilarious. She's kind of the breakout sort of Zach Galifianakis in the Hangover character. Very, very weird. You can just tell that they've got their own movie going on in their head, but that you kind of want to see just as much. Which is, I love that character in movies like this. Incredibly raunchy. One of the characters in this movie gets DP. There's something of that happening in this movie, and I could not believe it. It's like, but it's great because like the movie is very cool about it. It doesn't make a big deal about it. It just like, this is happening, and it's kind of funny, and especially the outcome of it is very, very funny. But I love how sexually free this movie is, and it's really putting a lot of people off, which makes me love it that much more. The fact that there are people probably walking out of this movie. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
So you thought, Jeff?
Not this movie making me laugh my ass off and then almost crying
Right?
in the theater within like 10 minutes of it. You know, it was so, it totally was pitch perfect. Not the movie Pitch Perfect, the actual.
That, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the comedic timing of everybody. Stephanie, Shu, she's so good in everything she does, and I just was like, the whole time I'm like, wait, what is this tattoo going to be? What is this? And then when they show what it is, I saw the people in front of me they just, like Sean said, it was kind of a jump scare. They just kind of went back in their seats. And this other lady cackled. Oh my God. She goes, ah! So loud. I thought that I couldn't hear, like what they were saying. Everybody in the cast was just so perfectly done. Funny and poignant, and when she towards the end, when the main character is like going to find her birth mother, and what happens, and it's just you kind of feel her everything crashing around her all at once. And in any of these comedies, you have to have the moment where everybody gets mad at each other and everybody hates each other, and then they're just like, how do you get back to where you should be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way they handled it was really, really well done. The supporting cast is great. I really, really thought, based on the fact that it was an all-female cast, a female director and writer, I really thought she was going to objectify the supporting men players a little more, and I was a little disappointed that we didn't get any, objectification. The friendship between Ashley Park and Sherry Cola, Audrey and Lolo, was so funny from the minute they met. And like, is your daughter Chinese? Yes, she is. Okay, well, we were hoping they would have a play date, and then they don't even think that maybe she's not actually Chinese. They just say she's Chinese because they got her from a Chinese orphanage. And then, she's so proud of her Chinese heritage, and can't wait to meet her Chinese mom, and then you find out she's not even Chinese. I That was where I lost it, because I've had a couple of my Asian friends who thought they were one nationality and they were actually another, and it's like, oh my god, they didn't just go there, but they did. Another thing is, anytime you put Timothy Simons in a movie or a show, I'm guaranteed to have a good time.
I'm an ally.
Yeah. Oh my god. I've been a fan of his since I saw him on Veep, and then like every time he's in there and he kind of plays that kind of officious character that doesn't necessarily try to be, but just always comes off that way. Mm-hmm. And you're fired, not because you're Asian. I'm an ally.
This movie sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
Highly recommend. I think there's some elements that don't work, but the elements that do work so well that I don't care about that. Is it my favorite movie? No, but it has that laugh. It has that laugh, and it does have that emotional resonance with those characters that you really, really like. These are very good characters, and like I said, the sexual freedom of it, and the way that they treat that scene, instead of making it about being a whore, where movies always have to punish women for wanting to have wild sex. This movie doesn't do that. It lets her have that and enjoy that, and then piles a joke on top of it that is really good.
The whole dynamic between Stephanie Hsu and the rest of the girls is like, I used to be a whore, but I'm not anymore. And all she can think about is dick. And it's so funny. The scene where she's exercising because what did she eat? What did she eat? I forget. But she ate something and it made her horny. And they're on a bus with a bunch of like mostly Asian basketball players. And she sees somebody she hooked up with in college and just really, 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 really wants him. And so they're both in the gym and she's exercising her ass off. And oh my God, Bob, it was so funny.
Very, very funny. Baron Davis, that random NBA player, Baron Davis is in the movie.
Yeah.
Because Lolo is meeting him there in China where he's playing basketball now. And it's weird because he actually does that. He plays basketball in China. So it was a great joke. And how they interact is very funny as well. He gets a couple of funny lines. So many good ideas in this movie.
Well, and they're all... Go ahead.
Sadly, this bombed really badly. Nobody went to see it except for me and Jeff, apparently.
I mean, it's $5.8 million a bomb for a movie with no real stars in it.
I mean, you kind of hope for at least twice that if you're going to make some profit and have some legs with it.
It does sound though like it has. Like you guys are already quoting it, and it sounds like the rewatchability factor is going to be high with it.
Absolutely,
I got to imagine it's going to find a second life on streaming. I don't know what kind of money they make streaming, but probably not the same as on video. But
God willing, this movie deserves it deserves an audience. And it's funny. There's this guy, there's this film critic, Lights Camera Jackson. He's this guy who got into being a film critic as a teenager, and he's been kind of I don't want to call him a punchline because he is a colleague of mine in the Critics' Choice Awards, but he put out a tweet last week that was upset that this movie was, I guess, too mean to white people. And it was really cringe. And everybody's been owning him over that. And it's sad to see this movie fail because that would have been a fun meme to continue.
Yeah.
Mean to white people. Good take. Good take.
And it's not really?
No, it's not really.
At all? I mean, Ashley Park's parents are David Denman and Annie Mamulo from The Office and Bridesmaids, and she they have this little and it's very realistic. It's very what I've seen. It comes across as they have their own little private jokes, my family does, your family does. And they're laughing about it, and literally the only time it's really called out is Sherry Cola turns to her parents and says, "White people." That's the only time in the movie that it's even like spoken of. Really, it's not mean to white people at all.
Yeah, no.
They're treated as a normal family, and that they all love each other. Like the families like each other, and they're all friends. And he just saw Asian women and thought, "Oh."
It's very funny that like the parents are a little bit oblivious in that way that that some ally parents can be a little bit oblivious.
Well-meaning white liberal parents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's very funny. It's very funny and well done.
Yeah, I can't wait till it's streaming so I can rent it. Anything else on Joyride other than go see it?
No, just go see it. I mean, try and rescue it from the depths of its box office.
Yeah, see it early when it is on demand. Don't wait for it to be on Netflix or whatever. Rent it and pay for it.
Yeah.
In some fashion. All right. Our classic this week is Tourist Trap.
Jeff, why don't you take us through Tourist Trap?
Oh, God. Where do I begin with this movie? This movie is fucking wacky. First, I got to preface this by when I was a kid and I would my parents let me rent R-rated horror movies from the time I was like 10 because I'd seen them in the theater. I saw Amityville Horror in the theater and I was like 9 years old with my parents. So I thought a PG-rated horror movie sounded like a terrible idea, and I was never going to see it. I'm like, I like the cover, but it's PG. I don't have to stick to PG movies. And a few years ago, I was working at Best Buy in Chicago, and I was using my discount. I'd started another job, and I was using up my discount. And I'm like, you know what? It's only $12. I'm going to buy Tourist Trap. How bad could it be? Oh my God. I fell in love with this movie. It's the story of a group of friends who are traveling in Southern California, and the one group is ahead of them and has a breakdown. So at the very beginning of the movie, the male of the two walks to what he assumes is just a regular gas station and ends up trapped in a room with mannequin heads and creepy masks and things flying all over at him. And he doesn't know what to make of it. You don't know what to make of it. He is trapped in the room and can't get out, and eventually is murdered. And cut to the rest of the group catching up with the girlfriend who is sunbathing, waiting for her boyfriend to get the tire filled. And well, they all decide to go look for him, and they end up at Slosson's Lost Oasis, which is a wax museum run by the widowed Chuck Connors. And they all go skinny dipping, and he comes across and is kind of leering at them and a little creepy. But you just think he's, just a creepy older guy who sees a bunch of naked teenage girls. And, well, let me tell you, he's a lot more than that. They are stuck there at night, and they come across some of the wax dummies and things and the mannequins, and they're all a little freaked out. And then one of them, they start to go off in different directions like you do in 1979 horror movies. And he's already captured somebody who's in his basement, and Tanya Roberts from Charlie's Angels, who recently died, rest in peace, she gets tied up down there along with her boyfriend. And this person in a fucked up mask comes down and talks like this to the girl that he has tied up. And he's going to make a cast of her, and in the ridiculous, "You won't suffocate, but your heart will explode out of fear." And they watch this happen, and they're like, "Oh my God, how do we get out?" So they eventually break free. There's a big chase scene. There's the other girl who's wandered off by herself, who figures out what's actually going on, that he is maybe the same person, maybe a different person. And then uh, we, I don't want to spoil it because I want everybody to see this god awful, stupid, wonderful movie that I love so much. Um, but the ending is just like nothing you've ever seen, honestly. I'm even wearing my tourist trap shirt that I designed that you can get on my TeePublic right now as we speak. So I want you guys to talk about it.
Bob, what do you think?
Wacky was a great way to describe it. It's just a movie that you just wonder how, when they're coming up with this idea, like what the hell they were, like where do they come up with it? You know, it's so out there and just different than anything else. The whole time I kept thinking, I'm glad Jeff's on the podcast because we probably wouldn't be watching movies like this if he wasn't.
You're welcome, I think.
Well, no, I mean, it's like I like horror movies, but I don't like it's not that I don't like them. I have never really gone back and watched the lower budget weird stuff, you know, stuff like this, and it's just fun to start, you know, crossing some of these off the list. I'd never even heard of this movie.
Yeah,
but it was just so much, just weird and random, and that masked killer was such a what should be like an iconic looking villain. You know,
right? Well, I will say this. In certain circles, like my friend Merle and I love that. I went to a midnight screening of this movie at the Music Box in Chicago a few years ago, and there were people cosplaying as Mr. Slauson. And wow. I mean, I sell prints and stickers and masks of, you know, Tourist Trap, and people are always like, I was wearing the Tourist Trap shirt that I'm wearing tonight on the show, and somebody walks up to me and in the voice goes, "You're so pretty. Why don't you like me?" And I was like, "I think I love you." But am I right? You think it's going to be just a regular slasher movie. It just comes off as a regular 80s slasher movie. And then there's telekinetic weird stuff. And
right, because like you were saying, right out of the gate, the car breaks down. They just had to go skinny dipping. That's definitely a cheesy horror movie thing that the people do. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It just kind of evolves into this, or devolves, however you want to phrase it, into just kind of this wacky little neat yet watchable movie that ends. I love how it ends, and because movies like this don't go there, you know, and this does have a cool ending, and like you said, people should see it, but it's just not your standard, you know, final girl gets away kind of thing. It's way better than that.
It takes big swings at the end.
Yes, and I absolutely love that. Sean,
I like the elements of it. Like I like the fact that the guy who did the work on Texas Chainsaw Massacre did the work on the mannequins and models for this movie. That's awesome. I love that Connors his idea for being in this movie was that he wanted to be the Boris Karloff of the '80s, which I wish that would have happened. He definitely would have deserved that kind of thing. I'm sad that never happened for him. I like the masks. I thought were cool. I'm not sure if I watched this in the best possible way. I probably need to look at it again because I was just not in the mood to watch anything. So I was kind of watching it just for the show, and I probably need to watch it again in a better mood.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we watched it all together, or you went to the Music Box Theater and watched it with the crowd, it would have definitely a different feel. I could see liking it more watching it with friends or an audience or something like that.
Definitely,
it needs that.
I think so.
Yeah. Another thing I'm going to call out: the score is by Pino Donaggio, who did a bunch of Brian De Palma stuff like Carrie and things like that. It's so tonally perfect for this kind of movie. That do. Listen to that on Spotify. When I'm writing, that's what I listen to sometimes because it's just so out there, and it fits this. You know, it fits the movie completely, tonally, perfectly. And
Like in terms of the production too, I like the use of the way they did ESP. First of all, I love any time that I can see the strings. That's fun for me. But also
yeah,
the opening scene, they did that by tilting the building on its side, so he's laying down with his arm out, and the whole those things are falling on him as he's doing that, which is a great way to pull that off.
mm-hmm. the I love how the costuming too just tells you who everybody is. Like Molly, Jocelyn Jones's character, the quote unquote final girl. She starts off in that weird, like Nellie Olson looking hat with pigtails, and and then Tanya Roberts Becky is just like, I'm gonna wear a tube top, and you're gonna see that I'm the sex pot one, and it's just perfect for what it is. So,
but it's wacky enough to stand out as its own thing, which makes sense why people would recognize your shirts, or they'd have midnight screenings of it. Because without having seen it, what I would have wrapped it in, compared it to our movies that don't get midnight screenings, are just throwaway horror movies. This is definitely a weird, wacky, fun little. I don't know. I'm really cool, or I'm really excited that it has its own audience that still watches it regularly, because that makes it that much better for me.
So one of the things about this and the last few years is when how when you hear something and it just like you hear it enough times, it's starting to like get critical mass. That's how Black Christmas was 20 years ago.
Right.
And in the last couple of years, everybody, my friend Merle, like I said, she owns a pin company called Pinsploitation, and that's one of her most popular designs is, the cover of the movie. And we just love, she's bought my shirt, I bought her pins, and we just love it. And there's definitely that cult audience for it. And I would love to see it there was a Blu-ray that came out in 2020 during the pandemic that sold out. And I want people to appreciate it the way I do, I guess. And it's streaming for free on Peacock. It's on Tubi. It's all over the place. So if you're like, I don't want to rent it, you don't have to rent it. You just go watch it.
It's definitely worth it.
I definitely want more movies, like this. I prefer this to anything like Boogeyman or even Insidious, The Red Door. Like
right.
most of the sameness of so many of the modern horror movies, those programmers that get tossed out there for a week and probably do better than they deserve. And give me Sleepaway Camp, those kind of movies. I'll take those any day over that crap for sure.
Absolutely.
That's another one we should do someday. Sleepaway Camp.
I've got the special edition DVD of that one. It cracked me up every time.
Do you know how I got the special edition DVD of that for Blu-ray? I went to a Fangoria screening when I lived in New York City. They were doing it, and they were filming it because one of the Jersey Shore brothers was in it. And so they were filming the reception, whatever. And I asked, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I asked one of the actors, the one who was wearing the tiny red shorts, why he didn't show up it was question and answer. If you had a good enough question, you would get a Blu-ray. And my question was, hey, why aren't you do you still have the shorts, and are you wearing them under your pants tonight? And everybody laughed and whatever. And Tony Timpone, who used to be the editor of Fangoria, personally gave me my copy. So.
Awesome. All right.
So we should definitely do that movie.
Yeah, we'll just have to pick the week we have nothing going on.
All right, let's sleep week, guys.
Have you guys seen all of them?
I have.
I haven't seen any of them. I haven't even seen the first one. I'm aware of it, but I haven't seen it.
You can come over this weekend, Bob.
There's your homework.
I've got the first 3 on Blu-ray. You can come over and watch them.
All All right, I will see if what I have going on this weekend.
Sounds like my dad. Hey, Dad, can we do this? We'll see.
Every Saturday.
No, I mean, I legit don't know. My wife hasn't been home in 2 weeks. She came home for one day and then went on the road for work again. And so I don't know what we have planned or what. I don't know. I just do what I'm told.
Bob is like, everybody loves Raymond.
I know. It's pretty sad. It's nowhere near as funny as it is on TV.
Without the studio audience, yeah.
Right. All right. In 1993, we had The Firm, Son-in-Law, In the Line of Fire, Rookie of the Year, and Weekend at Bernie's 2. All came out in the last 2 weekends.
I love Rookie of the Year so much, still to this day. Did you see Thomas Ian Nicholas throw out the first pitch at Wrigley Field? That was great. He was awesome. He wore the Rowan Gartner jersey. It's great.
Has he only done it one time? My guess is they bring him out every year and do it at some point.
They should. They should bring out Gary Busey more often is what they need to do. But
his pitches go everywhere. They're like always wild. Gary, home plate's over here, and he's throwing it at the outfield.
So much great Busey in '93, like that, and his role in The Firm. Like, it's fantastic. It's a Busey renaissance in '93. Unfortunately, we didn't get to watch Rookie of the Year for the '93 podcast because Amy and MJ preferred to watch Son-in-Law for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand why.
Though.
It's so. I made a joke, and I apologize for that joke. About what we were making a joke about Spielberg while we're watching Jurassic Park, and I said something about Pauly Shore being on Schindler's List and how wrong that would be. And ever since then, now we're just kind of obsessed with making jokes about that joke. And so why not watch Son-in-Law? Yeah. So we paid for that. It's like the car coming back around. Poor MJ, who lived in a world where Pauly Shore didn't exist. MJ, being a Gen Zer, they had no idea who Pauly Shore was. They didn't know that Son-in-Law existed, and we ruined that. We ruined them. We've destroyed who they are. They now know who Pauly Shore is and why.
Watch every Pauly Shore movie from here on out because you made a joke.
It's now podcast lore, so we're screwed. No, they laugh twice as hard at the Schindler's List joke now, though. Now that they know who he is,
Schindler's List jokes will never not be funny,
right?
That's a good podcast title too. The Schindler's List joke.
So yeah, we'd actually the next episode, hopefully be up this week, will be both Son-in-Law, which we were fucking miserable watching, and The Firm, which. This is fun for me because Amy is constantly going on about how she hates Tom Cruise, and then she watched The Firm and enjoyed it. So yep. she had to own that. The Firm,
hate him, love that movie.
It's a good movie, right? But here's the thing, The Firm. It has zero reputation for being as good as it is. It stayed in 1993 so hard. Nobody talks about The Firm. And it's because it is as good as it is, as enjoyable as it is. MJ was talking about how less than a week later, they'd completely forgotten about it. As much as they did enjoy it, and you'll hear it on the podcast, they did enjoy the movie. Couldn't recall much of it a week later because it's that kind of movie. The Firm is the kind of thriller that you forget by the time you get to your car. It was entertaining while you watch it. It's really well made. It's got a really good thriller plot. Not memorable. And when you're talking about, this was the third highest grossing movie of 1993. It made more money than A Few Good Men, which is, Tom Cruise. It made more money than Mrs. Doubtfire. But those movies are still talked about today. Nothing about The Firm is remembered about 30 years later.
Well, it launched John Grisham, too. I mean, he became a household name after this movie as well.
He was a rock star for a long time. He got mentioned, he was like the Stephanie Meyer of his day. He was like the she who shall not be named of his day. It's like that's the people anticipated his books like that. And
Well, I mean, he
today,
still is.
Yeah, he still gets that.
he still makes bestseller, but he's not a rock star that everybody talks about. Your dad talks about him maybe, but nobody. People's dads talk about him, but he's not the rock star that he was in 1993, and he doesn't have the cultural cachet that he did back then. Even I read, and I don't read books.
His longevity was a lot more than
I don't read books that aren't about movies. I should point out.
What'd you say, Sean?
I don't read books that aren't about movies, so that's big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I remember about the movie. Or go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. Well, you said his longevity is like 35 years. That he's been writing and successful. So
yeah,
it would have taken a lot to fuck this up.
Right. All I remember about it is Tom Cruise running in a suit, or
the first of the Tom Cruise meme.
Yeah,
he does that a lot, but he doesn't do the karate chop.
He doesn't.
So, I mean, you've got Sidney Pollack directing Tom Cruise and Holly Hunter and Ed Harris and Gene Triplehorn, Hal Holbrook, Gene Hackman. I mean,
there are two Oscar winners and 7 Oscar nominees in this movie.
Yeah. Everything about it is tense. The music, the underlying feeling of something's going on, even at the very beginning of the movie. It's one of the better done thrillers, and I think despite having Tom Cruise in it, that's why I watched it the other night, not even thinking that it was 30 this week, but just seeing, The Firm is available. Let me watch that. I was actually going to watch The Pelican Brief because it's about Supreme Court justices being knocked off.
Weird how resonant that might be.
Right after they decided to strip me of rights. But I was going through movies. I'm like, oh, I haven't watched The Firm in a long time. So I watched that instead. And I was just like, I think The Pelican Brief is where they kind of hit the stride. It's the best of the John Grisham movies until you get to Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah.
Which I unapologetically love.
Me too.
Again, a movie that has somebody in it that I absolutely fucking hate, Tim Allen, but I love that movie. Same with The Firm. It's Tom Cruise, but so it's I think The Pelican Brief was kind of they hit the stride in the movies, and then A Time to Kill is really good.
The Client's
The Client's okay. I don't remember The Runaway Jury or The Rainmaker.
I love
Chamber.
The Rainmaker, Francis Ford Coppola, Matt Damon,
okay, that's right.
Yeah, that was really good.
But at that point, it wasn't as popular. The rememberability of it started to fall off.
Yeah. I think A Time to Kill made Matthew McConaughey.
Yep.
In my opinion. And Julia Roberts, The Pelican Brief was written with her in mind. And to have her and Denzel Washington up against each other, it was just, they were both like peak Denzel and peak Julia in peak John Grisham, I think was really, and Stanley Tucci being completely hot in that movie. Because that's what's really important. But I think that's why The Firm maybe gets forgotten in the pantheon of John Grisham movies because of, how good The Pelican Brief is.
You know what else I love about The Firm is that the two most cuddliest grandpas in the world are the biggest villains in the movie.
Yeah.
Al Holbrook and Wilford Brimley are your villains, and watching Wilford Brimley try and be intimidating is very funny to me because I just see him as,
but it works.
Quaker Oats guy. It does work.
It does pull you out of that bias you have towards him.
But yeah, of course we made diabetes jokes on the
oh, of course.
And walrus jokes. I don't know. Yeah. It just happens. But yeah, we were talking about, there's also like the Wilford Brimley meme where it's like he's always been 80 years old from the day he was born
Uh-huh.
to the day he died,
I am older now than he was making Cocoon.
which makes no sense, does it? It makes no sense.
Right.
And the Thing, he looks like he's 60 in the Thing, and he was 40.
Well, I just saw. I mean, it's not Wilford Brimley, but like Danny Glover was 41 when Lethal Weapon came out, and he was too old for this shit.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. There's a
No,
moment.
It's not great at all.
There's a scene in The Firm where like these two lawyers have died tragically in a scuba diving accident, quote unquote accident, and they go to a shot of one of the guys who died, and they say that he's 41 years old. He's got like just thinning hair, gray, just looks like he's got to be about 65. And they said this guy was 41. Fuck you, he was. But 30 years ago, apparently they were just so much older. I put it down to just so many smoke-filled bars. It had to be.
Yeah.
Like, the change of taking smoking out of bars has just youthified our entire generation.
Well, and the fact that, okay, maybe because of the fact that he was, in such a high-powered job, it just aged him. Maybe Tom Cruise in a few years would look like him.
Sure.
How old is Tom Cruise? Like 74?
He's 62? Is 60? I'm not sure. I'm honestly unsure.
I don't know. I could
really
check that
care.
out for you.
I don't actually care.
I love how you said that.
Next week, we got Mission Impossible, one of them. Our classic is Sleepaway Camp. And in 1993, Benefit of the Doubt, Free Willy, and Hocus Pocus came out.
Yeah, we'll be watching, unfortunately, we'll be watching Free Willy, I guess, because I refuse to watch Hocus Pocus again.
Just don't watch it. Or do you guys all watch them together?
Yeah, we all watch them together.
That sucks. Yeah, have fun with Free Willy.
I don't think I've ever seen Free Willy. I shouldn't be that mean. I might have seen it when it came out, but I was too old for Free Willy, so I don't really know. But yeah, I'm not watching Hocus Pocus again.
All right.
I don't blame you. Spirit Halloween's about to open back up, so I'm going to have my fill of Hocus Pocus next month.
Do you guys want to play Flick Sharp for a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, let's run Tourist Trap through it.
I'm not sure how long it would last.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It might get a little mean for you.
Do you want to run it through it or not?
No, I'm not.
You
I was being a jerk. I don't care. I don't know how well it'll do. Like, as I like it.
It'll be like Midsommar and Hereditary and Beau is Afraid and
Tourist Trap.
They
remade this?
Did they?
Or
I think it was just in name only.
Gotcha. Horror Puppet, also known as Tourist Trap, or Airplane 2, the sequel.
Airplane 2.
Horror Puppet.
Recency
Horror
bias
Puppet.
will have me take Tourist Trap. Tourist Trap or Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Tourist Trap.
Yeah.
Agreed. Tourist Trap or Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Tourist Trap.
Tourist Trap.
Taking it over Kevin Costner's butt.
I might take Kevin Costner's
The
butt.
lasting image of that movie.
Tourist Trap, Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. I know it's a better movie, but
Tourist Trap, Misery.
Misery.
yeah, Misery.
Tourist Trap, The Little Mermaid.
Tourist Trap.
Tourist Trap, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care.
I'll never watch The Little Mermaid again.
It's hard. I probably would have gone Little Mermaid, but I'm glad you guys vote one. Tourist Trap, Raising Arizona.
Raising Arizona.
Tourist Trap. Just
Right.
to, I know because I know
Yeah.
I just wanted to get a vote.
Raising Arizona. Tourist Trap, Jarhead.
Jarhead.
Jarhead. Jake Gyllenhaal's butt.
I'd still probably watch Tourist Trap before Jarhead, but you're right.
Definitely.
Tourist Trap, the Maltese Falcon.
Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, it's a better movie, but I'd watch Tourist Trap again.
That's true. Tourist Trap, Adventures in Babysitting.
I don't care.
Are we watching the Blu-ray or the Disney Plus
The Blu-ray.
of Adventures in
The
Babysitting?
Blu-ray.
It's still Tourist Trap.
I'd probably go Adventures in Babysitting, but that's just kind of right where my age range is. What do you think?
I love Adventures in Babysitting. I just
Adventures in Babysitting, I guess.
Tourist Trap, 500 Days of Summer.
500 Days of Summer.
no Zoe Deschanel. So I'm going with Tourist Trap. She was on RuPaul last week, and I just wanted to slip my wrist.
I don't care.
You can pick it. I don't care.
I know.
I'm expressing my displeasure for her.
But there is a recency thing where I'd probably normally pick 500 Days of Summer, but since I just saw it. Anyway, Fast and the Furious, Tourist Trap.
Fast and Furious.
This is going to feel good.
Tourist Trap.
Agreed.
I couldn't even make it to that one.
Or 307. It's not horrible. There's a lot of movies out there. Anything else you guys want to run through, or just rank some random movies, or call it a night?
I think we can call it a night.
All right. All right. Next week, Mission Impossible and Sleepaway Camp.
And I'm the only one watching Mission Impossible, so we'll be talking a lot about Sleepaway Camp.
Do we want to watch all three Sleepaway Camps?
I'm saying.
I'll do my
I mean,
best.
I've got them all.
I've got them all.
So
I will do my best.
All right.
okay.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.